ever feel as though one part of you wants to move forward, but another part keeps holding you back? Do you find yourself overthinking simple decisions, avoiding things that matter to you, or putting pressure on yourself without fully understanding why? And have you ever felt torn between what you want and what feels safe, and wondered why anxiety can make everything feel so difficult? Welcome back to our Better Your Life channel, where we talk about all things relating to anxiety and our mental well-being. In this video, we will be talking about one of the hidden reasons anxiety can keep us stuck, and what is the conflict between what matters deeply to us and what our nervous system may be trying to protect us from. Because many people think anxiety is just worry. They think it's just stress. They think it's just overthinking. They think it means something is wrong with us. But very often, anxiety is much deeper than that. It can be connected to what matters most to us, what our body has learned to fear, and the hidden rules we may have been living by for years without even realising it. And once we begin to understand that, anxiety often starts to make so much more sense. If you're new here, my name is Jennifer Roblin and I am an anxiety specialist and therapist. At Better Your Life, we help children, teenagers and adults understand anxiety, calm their nervous system and move forward with more confidence and clarity. And if anxiety has been affecting your life for a while, please know you do not need to struggle alone. Now is the right time to take back control of your life and free yourself from those anxious thoughts. So let's start by talking about something that many people do not realise. Anxiety is often linked to our values. Now, when I say values, I do not just mean our morals or being a good person. I mean the things that feel deeply important to us. These are the things that we want more of in our lives, the things we want to protect, the things that shape how we want to feel, how we want to live, and how we want to be treated. So that might be things like peace, compassion, courage, connection, calm, freedom, belonging, success, safety, honesty, self-respect, acceptance. The list can go on, and it's what things matter to us. And then when something important to us feels at risk, our nervous system can react as though we were under threat. So if connection matters deeply, rejection may feel especially painful. If calmness matters deeply to us, uncertainty may feel especially difficult. If being good enough matters deeply, mistakes may trigger anxiety. If acceptance matters deeply, criticism may feel far bigger than it actually looks from the outside. This is one of the reasons anxiety can feel so confusing, because it's not always just about the situation in front of us. Sometimes it's about what that situation means to our mind, the meaning that we've put on it for our mind, our body and our nervous system. And that is why two people can go through something similar, yet one of them feels much more triggered than the other. The meaning underneath it is different. What is being activated inside us is different. And when we start looking at anxiety in this way, we stop asking what is wrong with us, and we start asking what our body might be trying to protect us from. And that question changes everything, because it moves us away from judgment and towards understanding. And that is where healing often begins. So before we go further, if you are finding this helpful, please do take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel and turn on the notifications. It really does help us create more content like this and reach more people who may be silently struggling right now. And if that is you, please remember, you do not need to struggle alone. Now let's just go a little deeper. Our nervous system is always scanning for signs of safety and danger. When it feels safe, our body can settle. When it senses danger, our body moves into a protection mode. That might mean for you a racing thoughts, a tight chest, shallow breathing, tension in our shoulders, butterflies or nausea in our stomach, irritability, restless, poor sleep, or that urge to avoid, escape, over-prepare or regain control. We can all feel anxiety slightly differently. What is really important is that our nervous system does not just react to physical danger, it also reacts to emotional danger and social danger too. I cover this in much more detail over in the video Understanding Fight or Flight, so I'll make sure I link that in the description for you. Things like rejection, criticism, embarrassment, conflict, disappointment, uncertainty, or feeling as though we have let someone down. So if our values are tied up with being accepted, being in control, being liked, being safe, being successful, or getting things right, then everyday situations can trigger a much bigger response than we realise. That is not because we are weak, and it's not because we're overreacting. It is because something important inside of us is feeling at risk. And for many of us, anxiety grows strongest when there is a conflict inside of us. One part of us wants to move towards something meaningful, whilst the other part wants to avoid something painful, wants to be protected. Now, this is something I talk about in the Understanding Your Core Values to Reduce Anxiety Workbook through the idea of towards values and away values, and that's available for you to download over in the description. Towards values are the feelings and experiences we want to have more of in our lives. They're things like connection, peace, freedom, confidence, joy, purpose, fun, love, calm, or belonging. Away values are the feelings and experiences our mind and our body work really, really hard to try and avoid. These are things like rejection, shame, failure, criticism, guilt, uncertainty, helplessness, judgment, or that feeling of not being important. And anxiety often lives in the space between the two. We may want connection, but we may fear rejection. We may want success, but fear failure. We may want peace, but fear losing control. We may want authenticity, but fear judgment. We may want rest and then feel guilty every time we try and slow down. Can you see how that creates a push and a pull inside of us? Part of us is trying to move towards what matters. Another part of us is trying to protect us from pain. And when both are strong, we can end up feeling really stuck. Now, that is often where overthinking begins. That is where people-pleasing can grow. That is where procrastination, perfectionism, avoidance, and reassurance seeking can all start taking over. Not because we are broken, but because our nervous system is trying to keep us safe while still longing for something that is important to us. This is also why anxiety can feel exhausting, because we are not just dealing with fear, we are often dealing with inner conflict. We want one thing, but we fear the cost of moving towards it. And until we understand that conflict, it can feel as though anxiety is running the show. Also, not all of our values carry the same emotional weight. Some matter more strongly to us than others, which means they influence our thoughts, our emotions, our behaviour, and our anxiety more strongly than others. So we may want authenticity, but if acceptance sits higher, we may still hide parts of ourselves to feel safe. We may want rest, but if achievement or responsibility sits higher, slowing down may feel uncomfortable or even guilt-provoking. This is one of the reasons anxiety can feel so confusing, because it's not always just about what we want, It is also about which values feel strongest in our nervous system. Now, our values do not appear overnight. Many of them begin forming when we were very young, through our family, school, relationships, emotional environment, the culture we live in, and our life experiences. We learn what gets praised at a very young age. We learn what gets criticised. We learn what helps us to belong. And we learn what feels safe. We learn to feel what's risky. So we may begin absorbing messages like, I must not disappoint people. I need to get things right. I should not be too much. I hear that a lot. I need to stay in control. I need to cope on my own. I need to keep everyone happy. And these messages often become our internal, unconscious rules. And even when we no longer consciously think them, they can still shape how anxiety shows up in our lives. So if approval felt conditional, people-pleasing may have become a protective pattern, a coping strategy. If mistakes felt risky, perfectionism and overthinking may have become stronger. If life felt unpredictable, our body may have learned that safety comes from control. So we're always trying to control the outcome of everything. Again, none of this means there is something wrong with us. It often means our anxiety makes sense in the context of what we have lived through and what our nervous system has learned. And many of us do not just have values, we also have unconscious rules about them. In simple terms, we often have rules about what has happened before we are allowed to feel something good, and rules about how quickly our mind decides something painful is true. This is where towards value rules and away from value rules come in. Towards rules are the rules that we have around the feelings that we want more of, such as calm, confidence, success, love, safety, acceptance, those sort of things. They often sound like this. Only when everything is finished can I relax. Only when everyone is happy with me can I feel accepted. Only when I do everything perfectly can I feel successful. Only when life feels certain can I feel calm. Can you see what happens there? Our mind makes the good feelings we want the hardest to reach. It keeps raising the bar. It makes calm and confidence feel conditional. It makes acceptance and success feel as though they have to be earned in exhausting ways. Then we have the away rules. These away rules are the rules our mind uses to decide when something painful must be true. So these are the rules around feelings like rejection, shame, judgment, failure, criticism, anxiety, and feeling unimportant. And they often sound like this. If someone seems distant, I am rejected. If I make one mistake, I must have failed. If I do not know what is going to happen, I am not safe. If someone does not reply to my text quickly enough, I must not matter. So one set of rules makes the feelings we want far too hard to access. And the other set of rules makes painful feelings far too easy to trigger. When we see that clearly, we can begin to change it. Healing is not about forcing positive thinking. It is about creating kinder, fairer, more realistic rules that our nervous system can actually live with. It is about making our towards rules more achievable. So instead of only feeling successful when we exceed our own expectations, we begin allowing ourselves to feel successful when we make progress, when we stay committed, and we recognise our effort. And it is about making our away rules less sensitive. So instead of deciding we are rejected because of one small moment, we begin reminding ourselves that real rejection would need clearer, more consistent evidence over time. This is how we begin taking back some of our power. We stop allowing every small shift in mood, tone, timings or uncertainty to decide how we get to feel. And that does not mean ignoring our feelings, not at all. It means becoming fairer with ourselves. It means helping our nervous system feel safer. It means no longer handing all of our emotional power over to other people or perfect circumstances. And that is exactly why I created the workbook, Understanding Your Core Values to Reduce Anxiety. Because many people know what anxiety feels like, but they do not fully understand what may be driving it underneath the surface. The workbook gently helps explore your anxiety patterns, what your nervous system may be trying its best to protect you from, what your towards values are, what your away values are, and it helps identify the conflict between the two of them. It helps you understand the values hierarchy and the old rules that may still be shaping how anxiety is showing up in your life decades after you've learned them. It is not about judging yourself, it is about understanding yourself more deeply. So if this video is resonating and you want to go deeper, you can find the workbook over in the description. And I'm also currently creating a course around this, which will be coming out soon. So those of you who would like more guided support in putting this into practice, if this is something you would be interested in, just drop something in the comments below. Just put those values so then I know that it's something that you're wanting. Because insight is powerful, but support helps us turn insight into real change. If you are unsure where to begin, I would suggest starting with the workbook because it will help you see the patterns you may never have been able to put into words before. So, anxiety is not always random. Very often it is meaningful. It may be showing us what matters deeply. It may be showing us where there is inner conflict. It may be showing us the rules that have made life feel harder, heavier and less safe than it needs to. And the more clearly we can understand what we are moving towards and what we are trying to avoid, the more choice we begin to have. That is often where anxiety starts to soften. That is often where our nervous system starts to feel safer. That is often where we stop fighting ourselves and begin understanding ourselves. So if this video helped you, please let me know in the comments. I would love to know whether you have already seen a value conflict that you may be feeling in your own life. For example, wanting connection but fearing rejection, or wanting peace but fearing loss of control. And if this has been helpful, then please do like, subscribe and share it with someone who may need to hear this. Like I said, my name is Jennifer Roblin. You can find out more about the work that I do over at betteryourlife.co.uk. And I've helped thousands of people understand anxiety more deeply and begin creating lasting change. And if you would like support, you can find out more by clicking over in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found it useful. Bye for now, and I will see you on the next video. Thank you.